Hi guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be doing my January and February book haul. Now, I know I said in my 2018 goals video that I was planning on not really buying that many books this year because I wanted to get down my physical TBR. But it's like when I say that, it's like a little thing goes off in my brain and sort of says, well, you're just going to do the opposite of that now. I don't know. So I've accumulated a lot of books in January and February. I was planning on just doing seasonal hauls, so doing one for January, February, March as like my winter book haul and then that sort of thing, but there are so many sitting on my shelf that I haven't hauled that I just had to make this video so that I could finally put them away. So we're going to have to see how we go for the remainder of the year. So let's just jump in to what I bought over the last couple of months. The first little books I'm going to show you are ones that I bought my husband for his birthday, but that I'm also going to add to my own TBR too. So I'm just going to quickly run through those. The first of those is The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss, and this is the novella that goes with the, what's the name of this series? I can't remember the name of the series. No, it's gone. Anyway, it goes with the series that he wrote. It's a novella set in the same world, and I'd been meaning to buy this for Stefan for a while, so finally got around to getting that for him. I also bought him The Name of the Wind. It's the deluxe illustrated edition for the 20th anniversary of the publication of this, and it's got these beautiful end papers, and then it's illustrated throughout with these really gorgeous illustrations, so I knew he'd appreciate that, so I got that for him. Then I bought him Once Upon a Time in the North by Philip Pullman. I think I put this in my January book wish list. I think it was in that one, and then I saw it in this beautiful edition and just thought I had to get it for him. It's also got this like game in the back of it that you can play. I'm not sure we'll be doing that, but it sounds pretty cool. I bought him books 3 and 4 in the Seven Realms series by Cindy Williams-Chimer. So book 3 is called The Grey Wolf Throne and book 4 is called The Crimson Crown, and I was trying to buy him books that you couldn't normally get in a bookshop, so things that we had to kind of order in, and bookshops in the UK never seem to have Cindy Williams-Chimer, so yeah, I ordered him the last 2 books in this series. And finally I bought him Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell, and this is the first book in a sort of, I think, a swords and sorcery type of series, or I could be wrong about that, but I just heard lots of good things about this particular fantasy series and I know he's really going to love it. We went to the Harry Potter History of Magic exhibition at the British Library yesterday actually, and I picked up the 2 books that are companions to it. So this is the first one, Harry Potter History of Magic, the Spellbinding Companion to a Unique Exhibition. It's absolutely stunning, and then it's just basically got lots of images and bits and bobs from the exhibition, and then sort of, yeah, paintings and things like that that Jim Kay did. That's falling out of there. So like, for example, you've got this one, and then each section is there's an introduction from a variety of different people in the public eye. So for example, the Reverend Richard Coles is the person who does the introduction to the Defence Against the Dark Arts section, which I thought was really good. So yeah, looking forward to diving into that. The other book that was there was this one, Harry Potter, A Journey Through a History of Magic, which I think is it's a slightly different book. It's not the same, it's got other kind of things in it. So I was there and I just couldn't resist having both of them basically to add to my Harry Potter collection, so I bought both. Then I was really excited, I think in January, to receive an email from a publishing house called Ink Road, and they sent a press release for a new YA book that is being published in the UK. I believe it's already been published in the US, and they asked me if I would like a copy for review, and I had a little read of the synopsis and then I said yes please. So they sent me Starfish, and this is by Akemi Dawn Bowman, and this, if I read you what it says on the back, Kiko Himuru has always had a hard time saying exactly what she's thinking. With a mother who makes her feel unremarkable and a half-Japanese heritage she doesn't quite understand, Kiko prefers to keep her head down, certain that once she makes it into her dream art school Prism, her real life will begin. But then Kiko doesn't get into Prism at the same time as her abusive uncle moves back in with her family. So when she receives an invitation from her childhood friend to leave her small town and tour art schools on the west coast, Kiko jumps at the opportunity in spite of her anxieties and fears that attempt to hold her back. And now that she's finally free to be her own person outside the constricting walls of her home life, Kiko learns transformative truths about herself, her past, and how to be brave. A luminous, heartbreaking story of identity, family, and the beauty that emerges when we embrace our true selves. So that sounds really, really good. I think I'm going to be reading this in March and then putting a review up on my channel. And this is an absolutely stunning cover too. So like I said, I was so excited to receive that email and to finally have a copy of the book in my hand. Then I'm going to show you some books that I bought in charity shops over the last couple of months. So the first of those is the Gustav Sonata by Rose Tremaine. I've got a couple of Rose Tremaine books on my TBR, and this one was longlisted for the Bailey's Prize in 2017. So this is pretty much in perfect condition, so I grabbed that. Next up I've got here The Circle by Dave Eggers, and this is, I believe, a thriller that centres around social media and the sort of impact of social media. So and Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books read this recently and I believe quite liked it. So again, I don't think this has been read at all. It's got this horrible sticker mark on the front just from where I've just peeled it off, but I can get rid of that. But yeah, so jumped on that one. Then I was really excited to find a brand new copy of World Without End by Ken Follett. I'm currently reading The Pillars of the Earth. And really liking it actually, and this is the sequel to The Pillars of the Earth, and the third book, which I believe is called The Column of Fire, came out either at the end of 2017 or the beginning of 2018, but this is a brand new copy. It's never been read before, it's in perfect condition, so I couldn't resist picking that up. Also found a new copy of Apple Tree Yard, and this is by Louise Doty, and this is a thriller that I believe was turned into a mini-series on the BBC or ITV last year. Don't know anything about it, but I've heard great things, so I picked that one up. Next up I have a few classics. The first of those is Slaughterhouse 5, and this is by Kurt Vonnegut. Don't really know much about this, but I think it's like post-apocalyptic and it's quite short as well, so a good one to add to my classics TBR. The next couple of classics are part of the Perennial collection, and this is published by Harper Perennial, and they are in these gorgeous editions with these metallic spines. They're absolutely stunning. So the first of those is Empire of the Sun by J.G. Ballard, and this is, I believe, set during the Second World War in Shanghai. And it says a city in turmoil as Japanese troops move in to occupy it in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor. Amidst the chaos, 12-year-old Jim searches fruitlessly for his parents before being imprisoned in an internment camp. Here he experiences a world at war, death marches, starvation and the struggle for survival. I think this has been made into a film as well, so yeah, interested to give that one a go. And the other one as part of that collection is Bel Canto, and this is by Anne Patchett, and I believe this is being made into a film as we speak. And this, I think, is about a group of people who are sort of kidnapped in this big house, and it's about them sort of coming together and their lives and things like that. I'm not really sure really, but yeah, I've heard some good things about it, so I had to grab that too. Next up I have here Lullaby, and this is by Layla Slimani, and this is actually an uncorrected proof. It's an ARC. This came out in January, and this is a thriller that I believe centres around a family who hire a nanny, and then there's something about this nanny that's not quite right. So again, it's quite short, and I think Harriet from Harriet Rosie is reading this for the Thriller-a-thon, so I'd be really interested to see what she thinks of it. Next up I have here The Bell Jar, and this is by Sylvia Plath. This is one that I've been meaning to pick up for a while, and this is, I believe, largely autobiographical, and it's about sort of mental health and things like that, so really happy that I found a good copy of that. I also have here Watership Down by Richard Adams. One of my students recommended this to me actually. We teach Animal Farm to our Year 9 students, and talks about the fact that that's an allegory and things like that, and then she recommended this to me as something that's quite in the similar vein to that. So yeah, I found this really nice puffin edition of it, and decided to get it. Next up I have Crossed, and this is by Ali Condi, and this is the second book in the Matched series, I think. So Matched is one that I've had on my wish list, sorry, for a while. So I saw this second book and I thought, well, I can pick up the other 2 books in the series as and when I see them. Then I have Eleanor and Park, and this is by Rainbow Rowell. I've never read anything by Rainbow Rowell before, and this is the first of her books that I've picked up that's in pretty good condition. And I think this is a YA book that centres around 2 people that meet on a bus, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong about that. But yeah, really interested to see what I think of her books. And then I have here Let It Snow, and this is by John Green, Maureen Johnson and Lauren Miracle, and this says here 3 holiday romances. I've heard people on BookTube talk about this quite a lot, so when I saw a copy of it, I thought I would get it and save it for sort of reading around Christmas time. Then the last 2 books I found are the first 2 books in a series by Becca Fitzpatrick, and they're called Hush Hush and Crescendo, and I believe there are 2 more in the series, and I think this focuses around well, I don't know what it, Fallen Angels, I think. So I found these 2 lovely silver hardback editions, and they're pretty much in perfect condition, and I just couldn't pass them up really. So don't really know much about this series, but we'll give it a go. Then all the other books that I've got to show you are books that I bought new, and there are some new releases in here. The first of those is Jojo Moyes' Still Me. I saw a copy of this in my local supermarket. This is the 3rd book in the Me Before You series, so this has just recently come out, I think in January, and so yeah, I picked that up. Also picked up Allegedly, and this is by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I've heard a couple of people talk about this on BookTube and say that they quite liked it, and this is, I believe, about a girl who is accused of killing, I think, a white baby, and she's black, and it's just a bit, I think the novel circles around sort of whether she actually did it or not. This next one I talked about in my new book buzz video for January to March, and it is The Tattooist of Outfist by Heather Morris. So this focuses around a man whose job is to tattoo those people that are marked for survival when they get to Outfist, and I think it focuses around a relationship that forms between him and somebody presumably that he tattoos. So I really like the premise of that, and so I saw it in Waterstones and bought it. Another one that was on that book buzz video was In Love and War, and this is by Liz Tranel. So this centres around a few people that come together to look for their family members after the First World War in Ypres. So yeah, saw that and picked it up. Next up I have here My Absolute Darling, and this is by, it's been covered up, Gabrielle Talent, and I saw this edition in foils, and it is a signed copy. So here we go, it's signed there. So I've heard some really good things about this book. I've heard it's a really dark book, so I need to be prepared for it to be quite harrowing, but I'm really intrigued to read it. I think it focuses around a girl and her father's abusive, I believe, and it's about the story of that. So yeah, I wouldn't say looking forward to reading this, but yeah, I'm really intrigued to pick it up. And then the last new release that I've got is 3 Things About Elsie, and this is by Joanna Cannon, and this is her 2nd book that came out in January, and I walked into a bookshop a couple of days before it was due to release, and it was there already, and I just couldn't resist buying it, so I did, and it's one of these really nice naked hardback editions. So yeah, and every time I look at this book I just want to eat Battenberg cake, which I suppose is the point, but yeah, it's a pretty nice cover. Then I've just got a mishmash here of other new books that I bought. So I have The Telltale Heart, and this is by Edgar Allan Poe. This is one of the Penguin Little Black Classics that I picked up because I wanted to read some Poe. I have read some Poe. I talked about it in my January wrap-up, so you can go and check out more of my thoughts there. And the other book that I have already read is Yellow Crocus by Layla Ibrahim. So I've already done a review of this on my channel, which I'll link for you. Really enjoyed this. This is about a plantation in the south of America, and about a wet nurse and her the white baby that she feeds, and their relationship, and it is really, really good. This next one is Parting Shot, and this is by Linwood Barclay, and this is his next thriller. I really like Linwood Barclay, so yeah, I try to keep up with all the stuff that he's written, and this is the latest one that I think he's written. So don't really know much about what it's about, but don't really need to with a thriller. I found a copy of Fragile Lives, and this is by Professor Stephen Westerby. This is another one that I put on one of my recent wish lists because a subscriber had recommended it after I read, I've forgotten the name of it now. This is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. So yeah, this is about a heart surgeon's stories of life and death on the operating table. So yeah, really, really fascinated to pick that up. I have here book 3 in the A Memoir by Lady Trent series. This is Voyage of the Basilisk. My husband bought this, but the first 2 books in the series are also on my TBR. So this is a sort of fantasy book about a woman who goes dragon hunting, I believe. So yeah, my husband really likes these, so this is also on my TBR as well. Next up I have here books 2 and 3 in the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy by V.E. Schwab. So we have A Gathering of Shadows, which is book 2, and A Conjuring of Light, which is book 3. And I bought my husband these to read, but also for me to read too. I cannot believe how big book 3 is. I mean, they're both pretty chunky, but yeah, I'll get around to those eventually. He also bought book 3 in the Gentle and Bastard series, I think this is called, The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch, and he's read all of these now. I think there's a book 4 that's coming out or is out. Yeah, so yeah, I put books 1 and 2 on my TBR, so I put book 3 on there too. He also bought Young Sherlock Death Clouds by Andrew Lane because he was doing some research into some books that he wanted to put on the curriculum for year 7, I believe, and this is part of the Young Sherlock series. So he read it and really enjoyed it. I'm not really sure how interested I am in reading it, but I'll put it on my TBR as a possible middle grade read. Last few books, guys. So I have here The Bear and the Nightingale, and this is by Catherine Arden, and this is a book that's been getting a lot of buzz because the second book has come out very recently, and this is, I believe, a book set in Russia, and it's got a lot to do with Russian folklore, and it's a fantasy book, and it seems to me it's got a lot to do with fairy tale and things like that. So yeah, I've heard some good things about it, so I'm intrigued to pick it up myself. I also have here A Gentleman in Moscow, and this is by Amor Tolls, and this is one of my BookTuber recommends picks. Robin from Driftless Reader recommended this, and I saw it in my local supermarket in January, and yeah, didn't really know that it was a new release. So when did this say? It said it came out, first published in Great Britain in 2017, first published in the US in 2016, so it is a relatively new release. So yeah, I picked that one up. Then I found the paperback edition of Reservoir 13, and this is by John McGregor, and this was on the long list for the Man Booker Prize, and then it's also the winner of the, I can't remember what category it is for the Costa Book. I think it's just the novel category for the Costa Book Awards. So yeah, the paperback version came out of this quite recently, and I remember being quite intrigued by it at the time. So yeah, I want to get around to that this year. And then the final book that I picked up over the last couple of months is Everything I Never Told You, and this is by Celeste Ng, and this is the first book that she wrote. People have been talking a lot about her second book, which is called Little Fires Everywhere, which I do want to pick up too, but I thought I would pick up a copy of her first book, and this is, I believe, about a Chinese American family in the 1970s in small town Ohio, and one of their daughters dies, I think, and then it's about how the family react to that. So I've heard a lot of good things about Celeste Ng's writing, so I'm really intrigued to give this a go. So there you go guys, they were all the books that I've picked up over the last couple of months. Once I've shelved all of these, I don't think I'm going to have a lot of room left on my shelves, so I'm going to have to be quite picky about what books I leave on there once I've read them. I've already kind of started making an unhaul pile from my first couple of months of 2018, so yeah, I want to be a bit kind of ruthless like that and kind of get rid of stuff that has been hanging around that I'm not going to read, or that I've sort of given 3 stars to, and you know, they're not favourites, I don't need to stay. So yeah, anyway, after that ramble, I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments below. Have you read any of these? What did you think of them? And then talk to me about some of the books that you bought over the last couple of months. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.